Let's get to some good movies, though, Maddie. It is our Ingmar Bergman Awards. We're calling them the Svens in honor of
my Uncle Sven
Nyquist and your uncle. And we're just going to briefly go through these. We mentioned the movies we watched in the marathon just a minute ago in the poll question. Let's start with Best Actress. Who gets your Sven?
Gunn Wahlgren. She plays Helena Ekdahl in Fanny and Alexander.
Mother.
Yeah, and the grandmother, the matron of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And the same reason I loved Julie Christie, and even more so Gordon Pinson in Away From Her, she just exudes this grace and confidence. And the scene between her and her dead son could have been something entirely different, and it just comes across so devastating because it's just played at this level of, it's really just beautifully done.
Yeah, it really is. She's fantastic. And, of course, with your recent comment about Helen Mirren, it's just very clear you're into elderly actresses.
I do.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not going to blame you.
I don't know what to say to that.
No, I don't blame you.
I love the ladies. Give me some experience.
Well, my Best Actress, we saw Ingrid Thulin, who's fantastic in Winter Light and Wild Strawberries. Bibi Andersson was in 3 of these movies. We only saw Liv Ullmann in 1 movie, Shame. She's getting my Sven.
Yeah,
I love her in that film. Best Actor then, Maddie.
My best actor is Victor Sjöström from Wild Strawberries. There's not a whole lot to say about this performance. You actually had him on your top 5 performances over
by
60.
senior citizens or whatever.
I might have pretended to have seen the film way back then. He would be my number 1 now if we went back and redid that list.
No, he's amazing. He gets my award as well. But then we've got 2 specialized acting awards here, Maddie. Best performance by Gunnar Bjornstrand, who is in all 6 movies we watched in this marathon.
He was the discovery for me. He really was. And I have to go with his turn as Pastor Thomas Eriksson in Winter Light. He's supposedly this man governed by faith, supposedly governed by the principles of religion, and ultimately he questions it at every turn and reveals himself to be this very ugly human, and I just loved taking that gut-wrenching journey with him.
Yeah, he really is brilliant in every film we saw, and especially in Winter Light as the pastor. But I'm going with his performance as Jans the Squire in The Seventh Seal, just because he's kind of a badass, but he's also really funny at the same time, kind of a court jester, but has that been-there-done-that mentality of the world. I just think it's really good. We then have to do our best performance by Max von Sydow. Where are you going with that one?
I got to go Seventh Seal. It's his largest performance. The other roles require him to be a little bit smaller, and Max von Sydow is just such a large man. He can play small, Pele the Conqueror. He can play vulnerable.
Sure.
But in the Seventh Seal, he's just fantastic as the knight.
Certainly was my runner-up, but I'm going with Shame with Liv Ullmann here.
Yeah.
A movie I did like more than you, but I like it because it's almost a dual role where he changes from this kind of effete artist to, by the end, this animalistic survivor, and is big, as you would expect Max von Sydow to be, and is really good.
Good point. He does change.
Best, most haunting scene. Did you go with best, or did you go with a haunting scene, Maddie?
Well, I'm just going with, we think it's the grandmother wailing in Fanny and Alexander.
Your actress.
Yeah,
yes.
Gunn Wahlgren, losing her son. That, for me, just watching
those screams,
watching this son, watching little Alexander come down the stairs as these screams keep getting louder and louder. I mean, they just reverberate.
Yeah, it really is a haunting scene. Absolutely a good choice for me. I don't know how you pick. You've got the bodies in the water in Shame, the dance of death in Seven Seal, the bedroom scene that I love. It isn't haunting, but it's just a beautiful moment in Smiles of a Summer Night where the bed comes through the wall.
The monologue in Winter Light.
Ingrid Thulin's direct address to the camera, definitely one I consider where she's reading the letter. But I guess I've got to go with what I think is the iconic Bergman moment, that first 2-shot of Max von Sydow as the knight playing chess with death as the waves roll into the shore in the background. It really is, for me, the single image I most associate with Bergman, and I'm sure many people do as well. That does bring us to Best Picture. It's hard because we liked all these movies. What'd you go with?
Got to go with Wild Strawberries.
Yeah.
It's just, and I liked elements of every single film, but for me, this was the most complete journey, and it's the one that actually made me get up in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep. I had so many thoughts racing through my head, and it got me to write. I'm a playwright, and it got me just to sit down and write, just so I could purge these thoughts, sort of sublimate everything running through my head through creativity.
Fantastic. Well, we actually are on the same page here. It was so hard because I love The Seventh Seal, and as we talked about with Fanny and Alexander, I think it's the culmination probably of his entire body of work. But the movie I would tell any Bergman neophyte to start with would be Wild Strawberries.
Yeah.
Love Victor Sjöström, obviously, Ingrid Thulin in it. the way it incorporates memory and his nightmares, I think, is just fascinating and haunting and scary a little bit. And I just love the idea of exploring the choices this guy has made and all his regrets. It's just really an amazing film. So I'm with you as well. Wild Strawberries gets our Svens, and we are now finally wrapping up the Ingmar Bergman Marathon. It's been a while.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask if you had noticed, because he comes from a theatrical background, early on he sort of deals with these big issues in a very theatrical way. And then by the end you get to Fanny and Alexander, and you almost feel like he has learned the specific power of film. He's almost learned like the specific power of the face, of just a look here and there, and he just uses it to just the utmost degree.
No, you're absolutely right. I think it probably is his most cinematic in a lot of ways, and yet that is a great point as well, because when we first started this marathon, a point I would constantly make in my notes but then never find time to bring up on air is how theatrical all the films are. If you look at the blocking of all the scenes, it's just like a stage play. People who are talking with each other are all kind of lined up in a little semicircle in front of the camera. It's not really natural, but it's like what it would be on a stage. He certainly does come from that background, but by the time he gets to Fanny, he maybe is at the full strength of his powers. Great fun with the Ingmar Bergman Marathon. We move on now to the